Well, business has been booming lately out here in the cold and dark places people tend to just forget about, unless they're camping or on vacation. So on this note, I figured we'd talk about some boogeymen that you don't have to kill on set. See, this guide is about how one should hunt Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or the missing link. There's many names for them, and many subspecies for these creatures. They are, however, just that, creatures. Flesh and blood, and for once not something mystical. That said, they are still mysterious, as it's extremely difficult to trap or even discover one of their dead, thanks to their rituals. To be clear, they're not actually the missing link. They're not a human-like creature, as they are far more similar to apes. Having said that, they definitely aren't like a normal chimp or gorilla. They are far more intelligent, and that also means far more sadistic. You see, they tend to be peaceful and mind their own business. At times, they'll even scrap with monsters in their territory, and depending on the monster, they'd win. All that in mind, while it is the norm that if left alone they are hardly a threat, the norm is just that, the norm. There's no rules as to say that it cannot happen. There's other times where you'll be called to hunt them simply because they're in a place that if not relocated, they will need to die, or because some wacko wants a Bigfoot body to study. For once, there is a rule in hunters who want to hunt monsters, as Bigfoot is a well-known figure, but in our community, well-known controversy as well. Since it's not a monster, it's technically just some large game. That said, with its intelligence and the fact that if people knew it was out there, they'd go looking even more than they do now, and you got a recipe for wanting everyone to think Bigfoot is a hoax. Hence, while there's a rule against taking jobs for the harvesting of Bigfoot or Sasquatch, there's no real reason either, as not a soul would believe you, as certain organizations would ensure that no one would. So the main jobs you'll get is napping a few stubborn Sasquatch that don't feel threatened when bulldozers show up, or when towns get closer to their territory. And well, the not norm Bigfoot. The ones who have gotten a knack for flesh and blood. The ones that make encountering a grizzly seem like a walk through the park in comparison. Let's start with the first job, a simple relocation process. Bigfoot is very curious about how cautious and careful they are. They just can't keep from their nature. Use that to your advantage, and while it will also very much depend upon if it's a single juvenile attempting to find a territory, or if it's a whole family. If it's a lone Sasquatch, then it's a pretty easy job. Typically, you want to make sure your clothes don't have a scent on you by washing with a non-scented soap along with your own body, and rub dirt on your skin and clothes. There, grab a trank gun with a shot made for elephants. I've never handled one of them myself simply because I'm more comfortable when the trigger I'm pulling is one that makes the thing on the other end a red mist. However, from there wait in some shrubs and use human food as bait, or maybe even a music box. This trick works better on younger squatches, with the older ones being far more cautious. So if you're not good at hiding, then you may struggle at this part. From there, you'll obviously shoot it and wait for it to take effect. And from there, you'll drag it off, and hopefully your client will have something to put it in. If not, then I hope you know how to weld, because otherwise, it's going to be hard to make something strong enough to contain it. However, if it's a family group, then, oh man, I hope you're getting paid enough, because it's a hell of a lot more complicated. One, usually, there's a father and a mother, both highly protective, and you will want to capture them first, as if you capture the babies first, you risk enraging the parents. So, first drop the babies, and when the parents come to see what's wrong, drop them, and quickly move them into a provided container. I wish I could give more tips, but unfortunately, I never did this more than once, and even then, all I did was provide a gun in case it all went wrong, and a pair of hands to drag the beast. In any case, I'd rather you all not try and take one of these jobs, especially if you don't have any experience in handling animals. Now, when I said I don't recommend taking the first kind of job, I also don't recommend taking the second kind of job. On the abnormals, the ones who are less curious and more delighted to see humans coming in their territory. See, I don't know what they mainly eat, but I do know they are omnivores, especially when one eats a human they change. They seem to understand this in some capacity, which is why they normally wouldn't, unless forced to, but once they've partaken in human flesh, they grow more violent, and now will only seek meat, with a high preference for humans. It hasn't happened much, but when it does, it's fairly hard to deal with. You see, they aren't as smart as most beasties, but they are dangerous and intelligent enough that they will wait for dark and sneak up on you. They are masters of hide and seek, so trust me when I say that if you're not prepared, you're gonna end up with a painful and merciless death. While not as sadistic as Wendy, they certainly are creative with how they dispatch people. I was once part of a hunting party. We went out because a bunch of hikers went missing. One managed to get away and talk about some huge monkey on 2 feet chasing him. We told the poor guy that it was just a bear and nothing more, but, well, I doubt he'd ever forget those screams. From what we understood, the pickings had been slim, thanks to poaching and a harsh winter, so after one stupid hiker got eaten, it was downhill from there. Well, it wasn't a juvenile, but it also didn't have a family group, and thank goodness for that, because if it wasn't for that, the situation would have gone further south than it actually did. See, I assumed that I was hunting with experts, however, they proved me wrong. I packed my AK and a couple of magazines, then we went out. But instead of setting up a perimeter, they decided a night hunt was in order. A stupid decision, and I knew it, but, well, word of caution. The reason Bigfoot tracks can just suddenly end is because those dang things can climb. Depends on how sturdy the trees are, but they can and will swing from them. In fact, I assumed they knew, but, well, sudden flash of movement from above, a scream and a cry of pain, wet crunch and a gush of blood, and I realized I was truly screwed. The others opened fire and just ran. The moonlight showcased the giant beast swinging with a torn-apart torso in hand. I'll skip the rest of the details, but with a few more knobs dead and a whole lot more bullet casings, the beast was dead by dawn. Their skin isn't particularly tough, so slugs aren't that necessary. However, their muscles are condensed beyond belief, so how the bullet reacts on the inside can differ. So, it's best to aim for the chest or head. But when you are getting rushed by something that can move that fast, just put as many rounds as you can into it. However, just know if they know you have a gun, then they may just pick up a rock and chuck it at you. And trust me, that's why you have to ensure that you have cover, so you can fight it where you want to. Preferably in an open field with no tree covering, or even better if you have the high ground. Technically, the best case would be to be in an underground bunker, or in a cabin with some thick walls. That said, most aren't stupid or hungry enough to get into such a small kill zone. Unless it was a strange abnormal, or if you took its baby, that is. Some things that may help are tear gas grenades or smoke grenades. They can help. However, the best chance you have is bright lights and a whole lot of bullets, even if it's down to unloading a clip into its face and chest. Then a few more for good measure. They're all tanky monsters, and you'll be spending a lot on ammo. But another tip is, if you shoot it up and track the blood to a cave, don't go in. Smoke it out and wait for it to try and come out on its own. Just don't wait directly outside the cave mouth, or you'll get the rock through the head, like some prick named Steven. From there, I'd recommend spending some extra money on rounds that will leave a larger wound cavity. Something that will cause the thing to bleed out, even if it runs away. Track it only in day, if you need to, and hole up somewhere defensive at night. Don't go into its turf when you can't see, and it can. And if it does attack at night, use a spotlight to both blind it and, well, spot it. From there, open fire. Other than that, that's about all I can say about my tips and tricks. They won't fall for meat traps when they smell human, so don't even try it. However, if you have a fallen buddy and don't have a sense of shame, then shove some sedatives in them and push them out of the camp. Let them help with one last hunt. From there, that's all, and I'll make the next Idiot's Guide a bit quicker, so let me know what you all like tips on, and from there, remember there's no such thing as monster hunters. Only monsters who want other monsters.